Warhammer, a hobby with very dedicated fans who love to make their own content or try and recreate infamous scenes from the setting. It has a long history of being a very fun game throughout all its incarnations, in my opinion, with great miniatures spanning over 30 years at this point. Now, there is, of course, one undeniable fact about Warhammer and its enjoyers, such as myself, and it's something that you might be surprised to see. No, it doesn't have to do with the great art and sometimes welcoming environment that the Warhammer community puts out. It is with the fact that they all seem to have a memory that would make a goddamn termagant look like Albert Einstein. So, to explain what I'm talking about, let's go back in time, way, way back, to the ancient year of 2011. Of course, in 2011, Warhammer was in the midst of its 5th edition at the very tail end. Of course, this edition will either be told to be one of the greatest or one of the worst, something I am sure I've heard before at some point, but I can't exactly remember why. Anyways, it was a really bad year to be a movie, but it was also a really bad time to be something else. Everything's favorite thing, a Warhammer miniature, especially metal ones. They released Finecast, a new material that was spawned for various reasons and was hated by pretty much everybody, including Games Workshop, given how they very quickly started to phase the material out, only 2 years after it was released. Now, the reason for this resin-plastic hybrid is for a very, very simple reason. Plastic molding wasn't to the capacities of metal or resin, and metal was getting very, very expensive at this point, so you know what that means. Miniatures made with the stuff were not very attractive. So this led to a stopgap material so plastic molding could reach its very good current state. While not using full-on resin because it was more expensive, they had plastic and resin do the fusion dance to make something worse than both of them, basically exemplifying all their horrible traits. Some miniatures did stay metal, but most were moved to resin, and the last one was actually released in 2019 with Severina Rain. Now, with a bit of backstory, let's come back to 2025. It is currently the 10th edition of Warhammer, which people will either say is the greatest or the worst. Wonder where I've heard that before. This was paired with an announcement that Forge World, the specialist shop of Games Workshop that produced mainly resin models, would be scaling back to only produce the largest things like Titans, Thunderhawks, and so on. A lot of these items that were discontinued would be moved to Legends. Of course, this really wouldn't be that big of a deal. People love to complain that the game is too competitive, but then of course they will never actually engage in the very casual side of the game like Crusade and using Legends rules, which is exactly what Legends is intended for. But that's a discussion for another day, really. Of course, this also followed suit that the very horrible version of resin, known as Finecast, would be going away, and of course, that's exactly what happened. Plenty of beloved characters, and Longstrike, ended up getting the axe when their codex is released. Now flash forward and Grey Knights are getting their release, and everyone's favorite arch-rival of Mortarion is not in the book. Can you guess why? That's right, it's because he's made of Finecast, and Finecast miniatures are going away with very few exceptions, and he's hideous. So really, it's just kind of baffling to me that I've seen quite a few people be shocked that Kaldor Drago is not in the book when that's exactly what almost every other codex has gotten with the exception of Dark Angels, who got to keep 2 of their really old characters. So I'm not really sure why people forgot that resin characters have been getting the axe this entire edition. It's really beyond me. And this is sort of just a lighthearted video, just wanted to talk about it because I really don't get it. If someone could explain it to me, I'd much appreciate that. I've been Spoons Rattling, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.